Okay. Woo! Welcome to your first lesson on the process of personal evolution. Now, because we are focused on somatics and energetics, before we even get started with this lesson today, I want you to drop into your body with a few breaths. We're going to breathe everything out, letting everything that you drug here from your day, from previous days, anything that you're thinking about that you have to get to next, we're going to leave it at the door. You can pick it up on your way out. It will be there, I promise. But we're going to leave it for right now. I want you to tune in and be as present as possible so that you can receive the most value out of this training. So exhale, let everything go. Inhale deep through the nose. Filling the belly, allowing it to soften and expand, and bringing that up to the chest, really feeling the expansion through the rib cage. Exhale, sigh, let it out. We're going to do that 2 more times. Breathing deep into the belly, all the way down to the root, if you can imagine that. Soften the jaw, let it open. Sigh it out. Last one, leaving the last tidbits of anything that you've collected up until this point today, deep in through the nose. Big sigh out through the mouth. Those 3 breaths always get me so good. So I'd like to invite you to grab a pen and paper if you haven't already. There's going to be lots of juicy, delicious information in here today that could reframe your entire perspective on how your life is and what you're capable of. And so I want you to tune in to receive the golden nugget that is here for you, because there is one here for you. So this is an introduction to our approach, our framework, and the terrain we will move through together within Liminal Grace. Now, personal evolution is inevitable. The question has never been whether or not you will change. It's whether or not you will choose it consciously or let it choose for you. And if you're here, you're waking up to your power to choose. And I'm honored to be a witness to that. So this work asks only one thing of you. It asks for your willingness to actively participate in your own vision for a life well lived. Whew. It asks for your willingness to actively participate in your own vision for a life well lived. Now, that willingness is actually the sole requirement for transformation to take place. I'm going to repeat that again too. Your willingness is the sole requirement for transformation to take place. Your willingness is water for the soil of your soul that will produce an abundant harvest 100% of the time when applied consistently. This is my promise to you. Everything else, the tools, the community, the frameworks, the practices, these are here to hold you while you do it. What is liminal grace? Why are we here? So liminal is an adjective that describes occupying a position at or on both sides of a boundary or threshold. And it relates to a transitional stage of a process between what was and what is. This in-between space can feel incredibly destabilizing, scary, and confusing as old structures and systems fall away and new ones remain unseen until they've materialized into form. And if you're here, you probably understand what that feeling is, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I'm not who I was, but I'm not quite sure where I'm going or what's happening yet. What's going on? So this is gray space. This is the unknown. This is the mystery. And we love it here. Liminal Grace is an ecosystem designed to help you meet yourself with grace throughout this process by being held within a community of humans navigating this unseen realm alongside you. And all of this while learning the context, tools, and resources that will support you through your journey with more clarity, confidence, and embodied authority. And because change is a natural and necessary part of the Earth experience, what you learn here will serve you through every season of life for years to come. So in Liminal Grace, we approach personal evolution through the lens of the whole human, not just the thinking mind, not just the feeling body, the whole thing, mind, body, and spirit. We start in the body through the lens of somatics, which we will get into, to give you the tools to meet your physical, emotional needs in real time. Because higher levels of consciousness are only accessible when the body, your divine instrument for creation, feels safe. And in Liminal Grace, we see the body as an independent, intelligent system that acts as a vessel for your consciousness. I want you to think of it as the ship with an insane operating system, by the way, and you are the captain of this ship. Next, we move to the mind, where we build the context, frameworks, and language to identify the inner narratives that are keeping you stuck and reclaim your power through conscious self-authorship. The mind is a culmination of the beliefs and conditions that color your perception, the way you view the world, and guide your decisions in relation to your past experiences. The mind is where your identity lives. It's where your ego lives. And these things are meant to keep you safe. And we'll get into that down the line. Finally, we have the spirit. And the spirit, we understand, is the eternal essence and source of consciousness. You. This is your divine spark. Spirit is pure creation energy that embodies truth, innate completeness, and connection. And we integrate the spirit, the greater non-physical part of ourselves, through embodied practice. This is building trust in yourself by showing up every day, in every moment, to meet yourself in the insight you've gathered and consciously choose your path forward. Your devotion to self will reflect your trust in life. And this is where your becoming actually takes root, is in building trust. So what is somatic work, Alessandra? The term somatics comes from the Greek word soma, and it means the living body. And this refers to the body as its own intelligent system and a vessel for the soul, a temporary vessel, because we're only here for a short time compared to our infinite lifespans. In this context, somatic work is the practice of learning to listen to your body, noticing how it feels, what it's trying to tell you, and responding with care. Your body holds your experiences, your emotions, and memories, and it is always, always, always sending you signals in response to life. Learning to receive and work with these signals gives you the power to take action, to be responsible or able to respond rather than react to life. So, somatic work aimed at rewiring the nervous system and subconscious system, which runs 95% of your day-to-day actions, by the way, allows us to retrain these intelligent vessels to have more capacity, less stress signals, and more ability to be at rest, safe, calm, and centered. And it's from this state of centered, grounded presence where everything is available to us. So ultimately, somatic work gives us access to this state of presence, which makes everything possible. Now the science. Everything that I share with you here is science backed, and I'm going to try to share it with you in a way that is not boring at all, but we do have to hit on some of these things just to give you the context for what we're moving through. So your fascia is the connective tissue that weaves through every muscle, organ, and cell in your body. It actually kind of looks like these little threads that you see in the visual here. It's like this webby structure that covers everything in your body. And it's now understood to be one of the body's primary communication networks. It houses, fun fact, over 250 million nerve endings and contains 3 times as many, okay, that's a lot, over 800 million sensory neurons as motor neurons, meaning, I know this is a lot of big words, its primary function is sending information to the brain, not just responding to it. So the gut is wrapped in its own enteric nervous system, which produces the same neurotransmitters as the brain and communicates directly with the brainstem via the vagus nerve. What all of this means is that your body is not waiting to receive instructions from above. It's already running intelligence, already processing, already knowing how to respond. Excuse me. So when we experience physical injury or emotional disruption that goes unresolved or unattended to, the body enters protective states. And when we don't resolve the emotional pattern or we don't attend to the injury, they become tension patterns that can persist long after the original experience has passed. And we'll learn about dysregulation, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and disassociation in the next lesson. Somatic work helps us re-enter relationship with those patterns so that they can move, release, and reorganize. This is how we begin rewriting our relationship with ourselves, not from the top down, but from the inside out. And so very, very simply, somatic work is the practice of feeling your feelings and making the unconscious conscious. It is so fun, so fun. The framework. Okay, everybody take a breath because, again, we want to be here with our bodies. We're digesting a lot of information. Exhale, in through the nose. Hold at the top for a second. Feel yourself expand. And release slowly through the mouth, like releasing a pressure gauge. So the old paradigm says, if I do enough, I'll have what I want, and then I'll be the person I dream of being. Now, this prioritizes the outcome and invites external circumstance to dictate your identity and feelings. It results in burnout, frustration, and deep misalignment. Here in Liminal Grace, we say, hell no, unsubscribe. We have found a better way. In the new paradigm that you and I are creating together just by being here, we say, I choose to be secure now, which inspires me to take aligned action and do the things that I need to do. And naturally, I attract abundance. I attract the havingness of the being and the doing. And this places the power back into your hands. It results in the results naturally align with the energy and actions that you embody. So your identity dictates actions that drive results in this framework. Still, even knowing that if I be this, I will do this, and then I'll naturally have this, we may get confused and go back to our programming that has taught us to chase having so that we can start doing so that we can finally be. Oh, I feel exhausted just talking about it. Once I have the relationship, the money, the body, the title, then I'll start doing what I want. Then I'll finally be who I'm meant to be. But you and I know that that keeps you in the rat race. And you and I are about to learn that that's not how transformation actually works. You are the center point of your experience, and you always have been. Everything you want to have or do must first emerge from a willingness to practice being it. So why we start in the body? This is big important. Now, we have already determined that your body is your vessel, and its baseline, its general state of being, determines what your experience looks like. If you are stressed out, overworked, overwhelmed, underfed, you're living in survival mode, and there's this like state of like buzzy lack that consumes your entire life, and you feel like you could never really get a leg up, right? But when the system feels safe, secure, and nourished, you enter a state of presence that is the center point for all good things. Now, in your mind, we've already said your action follows the identity that we determine up here. As your body settles into safety and presence, higher executive functions like choice and creativity come back online. These are not accessible in survival mode. And this gives you the power to choose who you become next and take aligned action in that direction, which brings us to the having part, right? And the having part is connected to our spirit, because the spirit is the greater non-physical part of you that has direct access to everything you could ever dream of. And when mind and body are aligned in intention, we become clear channels to our desires to enter our vessels with ease. And this gives us access to magic you cannot even begin to imagine. When you are clear in intention, your mind and body are aligned, magic really truly begins to happen. And you'll start to see that here soon. So how this works, let's look at the mechanism. Why B comes first. Who's a Harry Potter fan? I am. So there's this great scene in The Half-Blood Prince where Harry slips Ron a dose of liquid luck because Ron is all up in his head about their upcoming Quidditch match. And after drinking the cup, Ron instantly switches his state of being. You see his whole body light up. And then he walks out onto the pitch and absolutely slays his performance. By the end of the game, the whole school is chanting Ron's name. Gryffindor House throws him a party. He gets the girl. He's just like dripping in victory. But surprise, surprise, it wasn't the liquid luck that changed Ron. Harry only pretended to give him the potion. It was his belief in it, the potion, and his perception of himself after drinking the potion that followed that turned the tides for him. The moment he drank his cup, he took on the identity of someone who could not fail. How could he? He just drank this potion. His actions aligned with that state of being, and then the results naturally followed. Be, do, have. Who you believe you are changes everything. The universe responds to certainty. That last sentence, the universe responds to certainty, is why often the bad guys get the leg up. They get ahead because they're certain in their paths, regardless of how bad we may perceive them. So when you practice the being, showing up in your body, your choices, and your relationships as the person that you are becoming, that you are devoted to becoming, your chosen identity, the doing follows naturally. You're like, oh yeah, of course I'm doing this. This is what this version of me does. And then the having comes as a byproduct, a bonus, not a prerequisite. You don't have to have before you can be happy and fulfilled and whole. And this is the core of all of the work that we do here. Not waiting, not chasing, becoming. Deliberately, consistently, and with grace. Let's take another breath. Where are you right now? Can you feel yourself in your body? Are you all up in your brain because we just had a lot of science? I'm actually kind of feeling a little bit magical. I love ending on the Harry Potter note. But we're not done. So we're just taking a little break. In through the nose. Let it go. Maybe loosen your jaw, roll your shoulders back and down. Just check, where am I right now? Oh yeah, I'm in my house. I feel safe, secure, good, focused. So the tools that we use in Liminal Grace are chosen because they work at different layers of the human system simultaneously. And I'm going to give you a brief orientation to each. So we've got identity, parts work, and shadow work. This is all part of identity, right? Our inner structure of who am I? And these are the practices of consciously examining, questioning, and rewriting the stories you carry about who you are. We bring the unconscious, rejected, hidden, or suppressed parts of self into the light of awareness so they can be integrated rather than driving behavior from underneath. We give them a seat at the table so that they can be part of the conversation rather than sabotaging us without us knowing, right? Identity is not fixed, y'all. It is authored. And here, with this work, you become the author. Then, of course, we have our somatic practice. These are body-based awareness tools, breath, movement, sensation, stillness, that help you build a language with your nervous system, release what the body has been holding, and re-pattern conscious choice. We also use scripting. This is one of my favorite tools. This is a written practice of speaking your becoming into being. If I could show you my journal from 2024 and you could look at my life now, you would be like, what the fuck? Because everything that I wrote down is now true. Ooh, full body chills. Truth. So this is articulating the reality that you are moving towards as if it's already true, from the identity of the person who already lives there. And it reinforces your state of being. Pen to paper is so powerful. We also use joyful expression. This is a huge one. This is the intentional cultivation of play, creativity, and delight as genuine pathways to expansion. You guys, joy is not a reward for doing the work. It is an essential part of the recipe, an essential ingredient. You are not put on this floating rock in space to work your ass off until you die. You were meant to enjoy this experience. And the more joy that you welcome into your life, the more joy arrives. And of course, we use energetic practices. This is a big umbrella term, right? For the tools that work with the body's subtler fields. Visualization, intentional breath work, energetic clearing to support alignment between what you want to create and the frequency you're living from. Because frequency is everything. Again, for another training. Okay, here are a bunch of fun quotes from the very smart humans for your enrichment and enjoyment. But we're going to focus on this right now. Getting into the energetics. Everything is energy. Everything, everything. The law of conservation of energy states, this is from Einstein himself, that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed from one form to another or transferred between systems. And this is actually what we talk about, the process itself, when we talk about emotional alchemy. We're transforming old patterns into new, more supportive patterns. And the total amount of energy in an isolated system remains constant over time, fundamental to physics principles. This last sentence, let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's look at how this relates to you and your work. This is a human. Let's call her Karen. Now, Karen has had a lot of life experiences, and she is full up on shame, guilt, fear, anger, judgment. Look at her. This looks like a tough way of being. These are really dense energies that take up a lot of space in her body and dim her light. You can like barely see her aura, her field. Now, this does not mean that Karen cannot feel things like willingness, love, joy, and curiosity. Look, they're in there. Curiosity, love, willingness. It only means that these positive forces don't have much room to grow and thrive because her unresolved life experience is taking up quite a bit of space. Now, this is Karen after being in liminal grace and devoting herself to her process of personal evolution. You will notice that she's moved a lot of negative weight, and she's replaced it with things like wonder, trust, creativity, peace, joy, acceptance, forgiveness. Whoa! Karen's really done a full 180. You'll also notice, though, that fear, grief, and anger still live in her, but they are only secondary to the greater forces that she's cultivated and are actually supported by these energies that she's built around them. She is able to experiencing these lower density feelings now in healthy relationship, and they no longer weigh her down. They look really light in there, don't they? And her aura, look how bright she is. And because Karen is now a proficient alchemist, she is regularly checking in on her inner integrity and creating space for her chosen state to grow. This means she's asking the question, okay, I'm feeling grief, I'm feeling anger, I'm feeling fear. Where is this? Is this mine? Can I let it go? Can I create more room for something better, more beautiful, more abundant? Which leaves lots of room for new opportunity, possibilities, abundance, and alignment to come flying in. So all we can do is create space for transformation to happen. And that's what we do here in Liminal Grace. Now, while we're within the realm of energetics, I want to touch quickly on the masculine, feminine energy. There will be an entire training on this down the line. This is important because every human carries both masculine and feminine energies. They together make up our collective life force, which is the force that drives us as humans. These are not meant to define gender. They are simply qualities of being that exist within all of us that, when in balance, create harmony in our lived experience. Everybody wants more balance, right? So the masculine, in his fully expressed form, is presence, direction, clarity, decisiveness, protection, and structure. He is the capacity to hold space without being swept away. And in the shadow form of the masculine, he is rigidity, control, disconnection from feeling, aggression, the need to dominate. And you see this very alive in our world right now, right? Now, the feminine, in her fully expressed form, she is receptivity, intuition, flow, creativity. She's nurturing and she's cyclical wisdom. She is the capacity to feel deeply and move with the current of life. We actually see a lot of this rising in our collective right now too, don't we? But in her shadow form, she's chaos, manipulation, people pleasing. Oof, that's tough to hear. Collapse, volatility, and losing herself in others. Coming into right relationship between your own masculine and feminine energy is not about choosing one over the other. It's about finding ways to integrate them to work with one another. So when both energies are honored and expressed, you move through life with both groundedness and flow, structure and openness, clarity and surrender, balance, balance, balance. Throughout our time together, we will explore these energies through identity work, somatic practice, and shadow integration, fun, 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 so that both aspects of your nature can come home. The process of personal evolution. I know that you guys are at the edge of your seat waiting for me to share the recipe for this process. Tell us already, Alessandra, what is it? Well, here it is. It's subjective. There is no exact blueprint for smooth evolution. Sorry to tell you. Part of the journey is finding what works for you. That is why you're here on Earth at this time, after all, to sample, to practice, and to discern what supports you best within your own unique experience. I can tell you that there is a pattern. And this pattern presents itself across the board, and it's one of the pillars of the liminal grace approach. There is a huge misconception in our world today that our life paths as humans can be measured on a linear graph, one with a beginning and an end point, and lots of points in between to mark your successes and failures. This reinforces the repulsive, yuck, belief that if you're not consistently scoring higher than your last mark according to society's standards, you and your life are worthless. Again, Liminal Grace says absolutely not. Unsubscribe. You cannot quantify my experience, period. Period, period. Enter the circle. Again, let's take a breath. Feel our bodies for a moment because we're digesting a lot of info. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Let it all fall away. Notice where there's activation in your body, any tension. Notice where you're feeling grounded and present, and settle into those spaces. Big breath. Good, let's continue. If you remember, you are an infinite energetic being walking around in a meat suit. Look, that's you. Look at your aura. You are spectacular. So when we talk about evolution, it's not just in relation to your human experience, but your soul experience. The nature of life is cyclical, excuse me, and evolution is no different. There will be a whole training on your cyclical nature and how to work with it down the line, so stay tuned. There is truly endless ground to cover here, and I'm going to share everything I can with you so you can use it all to inform your unique process and take what you need and leave the rest. Now, within the circle, there are high points, right? And there are low points. And there's the possibility of getting stuck or bored in either. And then there's the in-between space where you're descending or rising, descending down to the depths, rising up to the top. But the sense of reaching for some invisible bar that is set ever higher by the linear perspective is non-existent. Because in a circle, you always know what comes next. Now, we need contrast for soul growth. That's one of the beautiful, devastatingly beautiful things about our time here on Earth is the duality of this experience, the access to contrast. And as long as you're keen on growing within this life and not remaining the same human day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, after a high, there will inevitably be a low. And after a low, there will inevitably be a high, right? Because we reach our goals and then we're like, okay, what's next? We have to descend down to the depths of ourselves to be like, oh God, what do I really want? What will bring me joy? What will bring me new life, growth, clarity? And then we have to use the insight that we gather down here to then take action and rise back up to the fulfillment of that desire. This is how we learn and grow. Now, this perspective is forgiving because your next evolution is always just around the bend. How does that feel? Your next evolution is always just around the bend. Now, you may get stuck down here, right? Like lose momentum. You're like, oh God, I can't get back up. But then we just kind of work ourselves back and forth down here in insight land, in the deep, deep depths, until we gain enough momentum to carry ourselves back up to that next level. And again, we'll get into that in the cyclical training. But this is how I would encourage you to view your life from now on. A series of cycles and seasons. Your soul already knows it is infinite. That's why it chose to come here to Earth and play. But in human form, it is a consistent practice to remember the end, no matter how bleak, is never really the end. So the process of personal evolution follows a cyclical rhythm, and it is your new mission to learn how to dance with it, which is exactly what we're building on here. This community is meant to help you consciously navigate this cycle so that you can move through it without going into overwhelm or shutdown, so that you can move through it from a state of grounded presence and awareness and continue consciously choosing and consciously creating your pathway forward on your terms, not what society, external circumstances, conditioning tells you. Two of the greatest forces that we will work with in our time here are curiosity and compassion. So curiosity in action asks better questions. When something activates you, get curious about it. The charge is always pointing somewhere worth going. So the next time that you catch yourself in a self-judgment, I want you to think, pause for a moment and be like, wait, what is this pointing me towards? What is this judgment asking me to pay attention to? This is especially effective when used in relationship to the external world. We can notice judgment as it arises and ask questions that seek to better understand. Our judgments of others are often reflections of our deep-seated beliefs about ourselves. And so curiosity invites you to follow the thread. Instead of, what's wrong with me? We can say, what is this experience trying to show me? What needs my attention? And the more that we can cultivate curiosity within ourselves, the greater understanding, compassion, empathy that we will have for the world, and the greater ability that we will have to make connections and beautiful relationships within our reality. And to feel curiosity as energy, you can picture it as a bright, alert light, not like the harsh light of interrogation, but the warm glow of genuine wonder. Close your eyes for a second. What does the warm glow of genuine wonder look and feel like to you? I see like a little kid in imagination land, just like, oh. Curiosity illuminates rather than exposes. And it says, you are not a problem to solve. You are a mystery to explore. Curiosity says, you are not a problem to solve. You are a mystery to explore. Now, compassion in action asks you to speak kindly to yourself, to treat yourself like you would your best friend. If your friend is going through a hard time, you do not beat them while they're down. You ask how you can support them and show up to meet them in their needs. And so compassion can help you reframe challenges by, instead of, why am I stuck? Say, this is showing me where I can grow. Again, going back to curiosity here. This is showing me something. And they work hand in hand with each other. And to feel compassion as energy, you can picture it as a warm, soothing light that creates a sense of safety. Like a hug. Imagine wrapping your thoughts in this energy when your cognitive process inevitably spirals out of control. Because we're human and we've been thinking this way for a long time, and it can be very difficult to change the quality of our thoughts. And so we have to meet ourselves with compassion over and over and over again to begin changing those patterns. Compassion says, you are human. You are learning. You are human and you are learning. Why does any of this matter beyond you and your experience? Because you could be here and you're like, I just want to change my life. I just want to do better things for me. And that's great. But I'm going to tell you why that's even better. Presence is not a passive state. It is an act of radical participation in life. When you do your inner work, when you regulate your nervous system, when you rewrite your stories, when you show up more fully as the person, the being, the infinite being that you truly are, you are not just changing your own experience. You are changing the entire field around you. the way you move through a room, the quality of your attention in a conversation, the ripple of the light of your growing consciousness on the people closest to you. The microcosm of your inner life is actually inseparable from the macrocosm of our collective one. And every time you choose truth over performance, presence over protection, love over fear, you shift something in the field that we all share. This is not small work, my friends. This is what you came here to do, and this is why we were brought together. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. Now, that concludes our lesson for today. If you are watching the recording, it is time to schedule your self-study workshop. Set aside 90 minutes and head to the corresponding workshop. I will see you in the next session.